What to do, ladies and dudes? Jabberjaws in the booth, Vulgar Desperado on the mic, here to give you and your crew something to talk about in your living room with a quick review of Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom. So, I won't bury the lead here, and I'll just say that this movie is the literal bona fide definition of mid, and I say that with all kindness and all ill contempt, all in wrapped up together. Just for a quick synopsis here, ripping this from the Google homepage. After failing to defeat Aquaman the first time, Black Manta wields the power of the mythic Black Triton to unleash an ancient and malevolent force. Hoping to end his reign of terror, Aquaman forges an unlikely alliance with his brother, Orm, the former king of Atlantis. Setting aside their differences, they join forces to protect their kingdom and save the world from irreversible destruction. So that right in there is exactly what happens in this movie. I mean, to a T, that is literally the entire plot of the movie. Yeah, you'd be like, well, I guess there's things that kind of happen in the middle and not necessarily. I mean, this movie is very by the books. Like, this is something that would, pass a litmus test of, okay, it did all the correct things. You got your plucky animal sidekick at one point, and you have your budding quips and funny relationship between the former enemy brothers. You have, adventure and a grand scale of action sequence and a very rich lore of Aquaman and Aquaman's world, but it's all just kind of boring and mid. Like I said, it doesn't do anything necessarily wrong outside of the fact that it's just not that interesting. One might take that as like, okay, well, that's your opinion, that's your personal taste, but the reality is here is like, it's just not well executed. One of the things I noticed is, like, generally speaking, every time somebody was talking, it was either A, lore explanation, or B, emotional healing of sorts, or some emotional pep talk. You're not really getting to know and learn of the characters, and outside of their kind of like designated role as father or as king or as brother of the king. Everyone's just kind of very stiff in that manner in a way. They're very just, okay, this is who I am. I'm always getting it backwards between stock and static. I think it's stock, but they're just kind of like, yes, I'm just me. There's only one emotional beats that I have, and I'm just very much the same throughout the entire movie. And then, like I said, other times, like, say Aquaman and his father, it's like they're just having emotional talks. Aquaman meets with his mom, it's emotional talks. Most of the times, like, people are having conversations, it's either that again or explaining, like, okay, well, here's the ancient myth of this, and this is where we go to find this, and you have to do this quest to do this. It's very, very, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, like, it'd work well in a video game, I guess, if you were playing it, but in a lot of ways, when you're watching it, you're just kind of like, all right, bro, like, you don't need to explain the whole quest to me. Just go fucking do the quest. Maybe, don't even have half the answers or, to go do this shit. Just go on this fucking mission. And then the other half is explaining the lore. Like, okay, once upon a time, there was an evil brother, and now he was all butthurt, and now there's a dark trident, whatever. Like, it never really stuck the landing for me, like, because it just never was, I don't know, how do I want to say, like, divulged more interesting. Most of the time somebody was just telling you, hey, this is what's going on right now. You don't really kind of like see it build up per se, or you don't really get to kind of like, I don't know, I guess give a fuck about like some of these legends and lores, because it's just bad shit starts happening, then somebody tells you the backstory of it, it's a bad story, and it is what it is. There's no other side to the story. It's just, hey, this is bad and we gotta go stop it. Okay, let's go do that. And everything is just kind of like that. They just kind of tell you what they need to go do, they go and do it, and then boom, we're done. Generally speaking, it's just very, very dull. The action sequence are probably the best thing that this movie has going for it. I do think one of its shining glories is the fights between Aquaman, Black Manta, and Orm, because they're actually really cool hand-to-hand fights, or pseudo hand-to-hand fights. They kind of got the staffs and whatnot, or the tridents, but that was probably the best thing it has going for it. All the characters were, the actors were, nobody was like bad in their role, and we'll get to Amber Heard. I know that's what most people are actually curious about. But generally speaking, I couldn't help but watch this movie and think that Orm should have been Aquaman this entire time. Like, I understand it was more of a Zack Snyder's version of Aquaman with Jason Momoa, and granted, I kind of laughed, and I thought to myself, I was like, man, in all the complaints of race swapping and shit, nobody really said jack shit about Jason Momoa. Like, sometimes you just, I guess you kind of just don't think about it or don't care. I don't really know, but you really just kind of understand, or really kind of like notice it, more to say, when like the dude that's next to him, just as swole as a motherfucker, is blonde as all can be, and you're like, well, Aquaman's technically naturally blonde. Maybe this motherfucker should have been Aquaman, like, I don't know if they're going to restart and want to use Aquaman, but hey, I think it's Patrick Wilson. Yeah, like, they should just be like, yeah, that universe, wipe it and just have him be Aquaman, because he's got the vibe, he's got the look, he can just do it. Jason Momoa, he clearly wants to do Lobo. Let's just have that happen. Now, Amber Heard, this is where it's kind of funny to me, because this movie, they said, I think it was in the trial they released, they talked about, her role was already diminished. That was the part of it because of the whole chemistry, blah, blah, blah. And, they said their contract was the same, nothing really changed. I would beg to differ, just because the way the movie kind of flows and feels is arguably looks like there was some reshoots or some editing or some cutting to have her be there a lot less. Like, it's not like she's, they're divorced. Spoiler alert, she doesn't die. And the fact of the matter is, like, they have a child, and again, it's not some divorce, like, single parenting kind of bullshit. Like, they're married, they're kind of running this shit as king and queen, but you do see these, like, moments where it's just Aquaman taking care of the baby by himself a lot, and with his dad, and I find that kind of, like, odd, because it's very early in the movie when you're seeing this, so you're watching, you're like, okay, well, are they broken up? What's going on? But then she would pop up doing laundry, and then, like, he'd be sleeping and she'd come and, wake him up and shit. So it's like, all right, there is a relationship here, and, it is established, but because she's so, lax there in her parenting, like, you rarely see her do it, and it's mostly focusing on him as the parent, there's no way in hell that shit wasn't just, like, edited. I mean, like, you can make montages be a little bit more family dynamic and still have, lessened her role. You get what I mean? Like, they're images. It's images of him doing it. It's not even, and like I said, there are images and shots of her doing it, but if you're talking about, we lessened her role, well, it doesn't mean that you can't, like, see her there, because it doesn't mean she has to talk, which she does not, and that is, to me, was the funniest thing about this movie. She is there, present in a lot of places, and for someone that was so outspoken, even the character of Mara being so outspoken, she was kind of diminished. That's where I was like, yo, there had to be some reshoots or edits. Even this one transition of a scene when she does talk, like they're in a new setting, and I was like, so that was a little odd, but nonetheless, I couldn't help but just think, like, maybe they did cut some of her dialogue, because, like, her opinions matter less, or she's just not as prevalent as somebody that's the mom and queen of Atlantis should be. And if anyone knows who Mara is from the comics, Mara's pretty straightforward. If anyone read the Blackest Night, run during Blackest Night run to DC Comics when they had the Black Lanterns, Mara got a Red Lantern for rage and shit like that, so she's, not like just like some kind of meek pushover, and she wasn't like that in the last movie. Now, is that the smartest move, considering, like, let's say, assuming that they did do the cuts and this wasn't actually the plan, because it doesn't work well, like, was that the smartest move to make? No, because everybody is a-okay with recast, and maybe the movie was already done. I don't fucking know. But again, assuming that they did do that, like, yeah, bro, like, y'all should have just went with somebody else. made her role a lot more prevalent because Mera is a prevalent and important character, and then kind of been done with it. This movie tries to play on 3 emotional beats with Arthur Aquaman, and none of them are fleshed out, or they're just not enough focus on them, in my opinion. So they try to play up this whole fatherhood route with him and his son, and just kind of those struggles, sort of, or just that love, I guess you could say, and just trying to figure that out. But that's like the beginning of the movie. Then there's like his relationship with his brother, and which kind of also borderlines into more like his relationship with his father towards the end of the movie. But point being is, it's like from him and his relationship with his son, to him and his relationship to his brother, to him and his relationship to his own dad, it's like, yo, like, calm down. Like, some of these relationships we don't maybe need to explore. If you want to explore him being the father, maybe the kid should have been a bit more prevalent instead of just bait. Spoiler, no, the kid does not die. That was an early rumor. As far as like relation with his brother, they said, yeah, we wanted to do a buddy cop, and that was always the bit, but maybe they should have either started that earlier or just kind of fleshed it out and made it more interesting. Like, Orem, he's I don't know, he's kind of cold to this nigga at first, but then he like warms up to him relatively quick, and he's kind of like a bitch under Aquaman because he's just kind of roasting him. And I don't know, it just wasn't that funny, or wasn't that hitting. It felt very stock and standard, like in the sense that Aquaman's like the brazen one, Norm's kind of the picturesque one, if you will. And I don't know, it just kind of felt kind of boring. Like, in a way, it just kind of felt very like by the book and corny at times. And like I said, some people might find it enjoyable. There's not terrible things about it. Definitely not like Thor Love and Thunder or Harley Quinn's movie, the Emancipation, whatever bullshit. Like, those are legitly bad movies. This is generally the definition of mid. Like, if you're maybe very, very young, you might enjoy this. Or if you don't really have a critical eye for film, or you just kind of really love Aquaman, then you might enjoy it. But to be honest, most of the jokes were mid at best. Nothing was really hitting. Action was probably its best selling point in the visual aspect of it as well. But the story, the characters, all of it was boring. There was no heart. It was lackluster. And some things just seemed a little off in the way they told the story. The beats, the pacing, just is it the worst movie you'll see this year? No, but you do kind of understand why DC did not market this movie at all. And I'm gonna leave it right there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you saw it, did you like it? If you did you hate it? Or whatever you think, let me know something. Curious to hear other people's thoughts. But until next time, you know what it is. Jabberjaw's in the booth. We're Desperado on the mic. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.